It's Ultimate Combat Radio with your host, Mike Stidham, on 1280 and 97.5. The Zone, brought to you by Aztec Highway, WDFA.
Dig it.
Welcome to Ultimate Combat Radio. Mike Stidham here, bringing you the latest news in the world of mixed martial arts. It's Friday, the 6th day of January, 2012. This marks our inaugural show for the year 2012. What an exciting time to be a fan of mixed martial arts, Brandon. Just so much going on.
Oh, man, we're coming off a huge UFC event to close the year out. All kinds of surprises and good stuff to talk about there.
Joining me on the program, as you just heard, is the Kaiser, and then also the MMA babe sitting over there looking so lovely. How are you, lady?
Just fabulous.
Well, darn it, that's good to hear. And, of course, the great white Big Joe Martinez. What's happening, my man?
Not a whole lot. How you doing, Mike?
Well, I'm doing well. You know, I'm doing okay. How are you guys New Year's? Did you guys have anything super spectacular that went on?
No.
We're in speaking with all you guys, we were lame.
What did you do?
Nothing. I slept. I slept through the New Year. I was asleep when the New Year came in.
It's a big change from last year's New Year.
Well, what did I do last year? Oh, I did yoga.
Midnight yoga.
Yeah, well, that's true. I've got 1 year older, and I don't know if it's any more mature, but I slept through the New Year, and I feel so invigorated now. I feel so clear-headed and open-minded that I think I'm going to bring some really insightful things to the show tonight. In fact, I think the last time we saw each other was Brandon was at the night before New Year's.
Yes, it was.
At the big UFC party / live broadcast over there at Leatherheads and Draper, and we're going to talk about that tonight because there were some predictions made, and there were some interesting things that happened, and a good time was had by all, though.
It was a good time. That was a great spot, and I think we need to do more remotes, man. That was fun.
We got a few lined up, so we're going to be doing a lot of that. It's exciting. Now, I actually entered the year in terms of MMA with a little bit of trepidation. Bob, you can look that up and let Joe know what that means.
Don't be doing that to me.
I think the sport is at a pivotal point, and where it could really take off. I mean, the sport is you're seeing it on Fox, it's on network television, but there's a flip side to that. And I read an interesting article yesterday that our title sponsor, Chris Killalay, the owner of Aztec Highway, gave to me. And the article was written by a guy named Jeff Wagenheim. He's from SI.com, Sports Illustrated, legitimate rag. They're talking a little bit about MMA, and he brings out an interesting point. He was making some predictions for the year 2012, and that was kind of what gave me the idea for this week's poll question. What are your predictions? One of his predictions was that look, the UFC is on network television now, and what a great opportunity, and you're going to broaden your fan base, you're going to expose yourself to so many new people, but that's a double-edged sword. You remember that about a decade ago when John McCain said that, you know, that sport is human cockfighting, and it's taken us a decade to overcome that, and really we still haven't overcome that. And you're going to have that now. You're going to see people that are very conservative that may be flipping through the channels in network television. They're going. You look like the Statue of Liberty over there. Robertina's microphone fell, and she's just holding up, looking good.
Doing it.
Those long arms are good for something.
Yeah. You know, so somebody's going to see this, and they might tune in at the wrong time when Frank Mir's breaking somebody's arm or when there's a particularly bloody fight, and that could really essentially spell doom for the sport in a way, because there are some very conservative people that are very, very vocal, especially about things like this, when they feel like their children are being exposed to something that they don't like them being exposed to. And how do you deal with that? And, you know, the big question is Dana White the ambassador to be able to handle that kind of windstorm that may come our way?
Yeah, the pay-per-view audience, I mean, that's just a whole nother world. When you get friends together and you purchase something to watch, you know, you're making a conscious choice to see it. And, man, flipping through the channels in a major network like that, running across it, they're definitely going to get more criticism. And
without a doubt.
I think that's a great question about Dana White. You know, I mean, what's one thing to be the leader of a bunch of ragtag, you know, guys that like to get together on the weekend and buy a pay-per-view, but now we're talking about the world level. Like, it's, I don't know. Oh,
and there are guys like John McCain that will chew you up and spit you out if you got an attitude with them, you know, and I don't see Dana White backing down from anybody like that. And you know, the interesting thing here is I have noticed, as you watch the promos on Fox, they're nothing like the promos you used to see on Spike. Those were blood flying up, and so, but you're seeing the promos that they're running during the football games, and they're not even close to being the same.
So in this article, is this guy predicting that it's going to be the fall of the UFC on Fox, or
what he did is he ran through 10 different things that he thought would be newsworthy of the year, and what he titled this one was "Big Stage Backlash." And, so his prediction is, we're here in a very volatile time where I don't want to say volatile, but it's a time where the sport could really take off or it could really come crumbling down. And he did pose the question kind of, off. It wasn't really the point of the article, but is Dana White the guy that's going to be a diplomat for you? And that's a great question. I think it's something that maybe the UFC needs to consider. And this is coming from a guy who ran his organization, and I don't like to say that I'm Dana White because there's no way you make that comparison. But temperamentally, I can be, And so it would have probably behooved me to have somebody be that ambassador dealing with the Bill Colberts of the world. And that kind of stuff.
Even the diehard pay-per-view buyers. They have a hard time dealing with Dana White sometimes, and somebody who's conservative probably gonna have a really hard time dealing with or listening to him because he's, how he is. He's an angry man.
Yeah, it works in the dynamic of the pay-per-view buyer because I don't think a lot of people realize that 99.9% of the stuff I say on this show and that I did on my web forum, it's to get a response out of you. That's all I'm trying to do. And, I'm not as big a jerk as most might think I am. Well, my wife might disagree with that. But the point is, Dana White is playing within his playground. He's playing a role that he plays very well. But it's difficult to step out of that role and play a different one when you're dealing with people on a different mentality or a different level.
Do you think they have somebody, if Dana White can't cut it as that, to maybe take over? Is that like an ex-fighter that people might, like a Chuck Liddell or something like that people might recognize? And
Chuck's not articulate enough.
Well, I know.
But I think, honestly, what they need to do is like what Fox has done. They bring in a bunch of ex-football players to do your color commentary on football games. But the guys that are calling the action, typically, those are seasoned, honed, trained broadcast people. They're not necessarily guys from the sport, and that's what I think they need to do. Maybe go outside the sport, have your guys come and do color commentary or do some of the PR type stuff like your Troy Aikman does for the NFL. But have, is it Joe Buck? Is that the guy on the football that he with Fox? He's kind of their lead anchor for football games. So get somebody like that. I think he has to be very refined and he has to be very well spoken.
Like a Goldberg, he's a broadcaster, and you got Rogan, who's the color commentator.
Yeah, Goldberg may be the guy. Maybe I don't know what his temperament is like, and and you have to be able to deal with things under very pressure-filled situations. I don't know how he is there. I don't think that Rogan is. Rogan's a little, especially with Rogan's being so outspoken about pro marijuana, that kind of stuff. That might just make him a target for people to say, look, they're all bad guys. They'll smoke weed and punch each other in the face.
So do you think that the person that's going to be the in charge and to deal with all the backlash of this is going to be the person at the press conference like Dana White does? They need somebody else to take over that if he can't handle it? Or is it the person that you're seeing on TV all the time before and after the fights?
That's a good question. That's what I think they're all going to have the question they're all going to have to answer. And, is Dana White that guy? Dana, I think, is the guy that runs the business and he runs the business end of it, but I think he needs to maybe take a step back and let other people come up and do that job. Especially with just kind of the broader base that they're going to be going to. All right, let's move on, man. Coming up next segment, we're going to be speaking with a participant from the upcoming WCFC's Last Man Standing, taking place January 20th at UVU in Orem, Riker Randstrom. Say that name fast 10 times. Have you ever heard of the guy?
No, I saw the name online, and does he have a nickname that starts with an R too, I think?
He probably does. Here's the thing. I've been really pushing this tournament. I don't know this guy. I don't know anything about him. I'm interested to have this interview because he's in a very stacked weight class, and I want to know what his pedigree is. What I'm seeing here is that he wrestled in the state tournament in Idaho. I don't know if he placed or anything like that. Maybe he's in over his head. Who knows? We're going to find out when we talk to him in just a few minutes.
Is he a newcomer to the division?
He's got a 2-1 record, and I think he may be one of those guys that has had to replace somebody. Did you ever find out if Sterling was going to do it? Has he ever said now that the holidays are over?
That's a very good question. Everything I've heard is no, but
okay.
I'm not sure.
Well, unfortunately for the promoters, you get guys like a Sterling and Natsumi that you want to have on your card, and you've gotten possible yeses out of them, and they string you along, and you kind of hold that spot for them, and then you have to call a guy like Riker Renstrom. Which I don't know if that's the case, but we're going to find out. Like I said, I think the division itself is a pretty solid division. Or for the tournament, we'll have to see. Now, my badass of the week, Joe. I apologize. You posted one on our page, and I didn't look at it, and I didn't see it. And it sounds like I'm going to let you kind of tell your story because it sounds like this guy's kind of cool.
It's a guy. I don't know where it was, but there was a guy was going to rob a convenience store. And in the video, you see this guy jump over the counter, go through the counter, and then a guy in a wheelchair comes pulling up, grabs the guy, pulls him off. The guy falls out of his wheelchair and tries throwing on an anaconda choke and is holding him down. And then everybody else comes up and grabs him and takes him outside and holds him down until the police get there.
That is awesome.
So the guy on the wheelchair was the first guy, and he jumped and grabbed me. He was not scared at all. It was awesome. I don't know the guy's name or
that's pretty cool.
Where he's from, but he's my badass of the week.
I'm going to have to go check that out. But my badass of the week, I think, with a very resounding voice is Johnny Hendricks. He's been a guest on our program twice, both times resulting in him coming out victorious in the UFC, and both times he was an underdog. But last Friday night, Hendricks knocked out the person who I felt was the most talented welterweight in the division after the debilitating injury that GSP suffered. But this KO catapults him to the top of the 170-pound weight class and makes him the man to beat. Now, I haven't seen anybody rise this quickly. He was virtually an obscure name. When we first booked him on the show, I was like, "Who is this guy?"
We had to study about him.
We had to look him up, and we had to go on his Wikipedia page. I like the beard; he looks cool. But you got him on the show. What great energy. I haven't interviewed a fighter that even comes close to the positive energy that I got. He was just so positive. He came on, "Hey, man, how are you doing?" It was just awesome to have him on the show.
Yeah, he was a stud, and it is impressive that he rose so fast in like one of the toughest weight classes you could possibly do that in.
And did to John Fitch what GSP couldn't do, what BJ Penn couldn't do.
Well, this is the thing, too, that just a year ago, if we were going to backpedal a year, the 170-pound weight class is what we thought was just untouchable. They were so stacked, but GSP was that guy, but there was so much talent there, and this guy just plowed right through it. So, to me, it's so remarkable. But he's my badass of the week. Although I'm going to give a co-badass to the guy in the wheelchair because that is one hell of a story. All right, local news. I don't want you to forget that last week's badass of the week is wrestling on Monday in the All-Star Duels at UVU on January 9th, and that's Gavin Godfrey. They're doing the wrestling All-Star Duels. And I just think wrestling is such a precursor to MMA that you kind of have to mention it. And, good stuff. All right, so this segment is brought to you by Mushin Self-Defense and Ultimate Combat Training Center. Brandon, what's going on over at Mushin?
Oh, man, we have so many fighters training right now and getting ready for all these events. We've got 2 of these tournaments. I guess that's the new trend these days. We've got Curtis Johnson fighting in one lightweight tournament, and then we've got Brandon Melendez and Casey Uscola training to fight in the welterweight tournament. And then in addition to that, we have a couple other fill-in guys, Kyle Herrera and Kensei Sato, both having fights on those cards as well. So we are busy.
Yeah, as are we. It seems, that we kind of went through a little period there where we didn't have a lot of fighter activity, but that's kind of changed now. We got Big Joe Martinez is fighting in a couple of weeks, as well as Eric Wallen from our gym is fighting on that same card. And both of you guys, I've got to say, I don't like to toot my own guy's horn very often because it puts them in a bad spot, and then you kind of have to live up to it. Joe has looked phenomenal in the gym. I mean, just phenomenal.
Toot that horn, Mike. I like it, man.
I'm telling you, I've been so impressed, with his attitude, his work ethic, but it's clicking. Everything's really starting to click, and it's looking good. And Eric Wallen, same thing. You're going to see this kid. He is getting better and better. And it's not by mistake. It's by this kid is putting in his work. And so, I got to say, the fight team's looking good. Starting to look a lot better. Joe, how you feeling about it?
It's been a lot of fun. I've been having a good time doing it. Can't wait to eat something, but other than that, I'm doing all right.
How much more weight do you have to lose, Joe?
I got about 10 more to go, so.
And then is that to get to the point where you're going to do like a big water cut, or are you going to try and walk around at the weight you're going to fight?
I won't. I don't think I'll make it to where the weight I'm going to be fighting. So I'll be close to it, and I'll do water.
What a treat for our regular listeners to get to hear about one of our own.
Shave that beard, and I think you'll make weight no problem.
I'm not shaving it until the fight. So
we'll see. We'll see.
All right. Want to give you a reminder real quick. The poll question, looking for any predictions you might have for 2012. And Robertina, how would they get a hold of us to do that?
Call us at 470-570 or 670-1280, or text us at 53318. Text in zone and your prediction for 2012.
If that voice doesn't make you want to call, I don't know what will, man. I see all those Live Links commercials. They have nothing on us. We got the MMA, babe.
You've seen the commercials, or you've actually called?
990-9090, man. I don't know. Does that answer your question? All right, we got a lot more coming up when we come back.